close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Star Sport podcast. I'm Jack McCarthy of the Southern Star, and saddling up beside me is Star Sport editor Ciaran McCarthy, who's rearing to go. On today's show we'll be joined by Munster ladies manager Laura Guest to talk to us about Skibbereen's Enya Breen, who made her Ireland debut in a Six Nations loss to France at the weekend.
We'll also chat to Greg McCarthy, clerk of the course for the Clonakilty Park Hotel West Cork Rally, which goes to post this weekend.
But now, before we chat to Laura about all the weekend's rugby, it would be remiss of us not to mention the Cheltenham Festival, which kicked off on Tuesday. And it's probably worth noting before we go any further that we are recording this after racing on Tuesday evening. So forgive us if we mention any horses that finished paddy last over the next few days, and no doubt we will.
It wasn't a bad day for the West Cork Raiders on day one. Gavin Sheehan from Dunmanway managed to finish third on board 33-1 shot Itchy Feet in the Supreme Novices Hurl in the open race of the festival.
Yeah, and Gavin has a few decent chances this week. He rides St Calvados in a champion chase on Wednesday. He's around 33-1 shot, so unlikely he'll finish in the placings. But he looks to have a decent each-way chance in the cross-country also on Wednesday on board Fact of the Matter for Jamie Snowden. So best luck to Gavin with the rest of the week.
There's also more West Cork interest, and Coppeen's Noel Feely looks more likely to end up in the winning enclosure this week. The Gold Cup winning rider is booked every day and will have a chance with Blackop in the Stayers on Thursday and Calandra in the Brown Advisory.
Now, before we move on to the rugby, since every other podcast and radio show in the country seems to be giving tips for Cheltenham this week, no matter whether they know the first thing about horse racing or not, people are tipping. Ray Darcy's tipping, Ian Dempsey's tipping, so myself and Ciaran are going to have a go at this old tipping lark ourselves. And I suppose I'll kick it off, Ciaran, before we go to you. And I'm going to give a tip for the Gold Cup on Friday, because I think whether you're a racing fan or not, you'll probably watch the Gold Cup. It's probably the biggest race of the jumps calendar outside of the Grand National. And I'm going to go for a bit of an outsider, although I think Present Percy, who's second favourite, could be the most likely winner. I'm going to have a flyer on Thistlecrack. Colin Tizard's horse is around a 12-1 shot, and when he won the King George in Kempton in 2016, he looked a surefire Gold Cup winner in the making, but unfortunately injuries have hampered him, because he is a freak. He jumps like a stag, and he's back, almost back to his, well, I can't say back to his best, because he'll never replicate that run when he won the King George in 2016. But just in the most recent King George run at Kempton around Christmas of last year, he finished second to Gold Cup favourite Clan des Obeaux, and he wasn't second by far. He ran a massive race, so I think 12-1 is a big price, and he'll definitely give you a run for your money if you're like playing small stakes like myself, a few quid each way. Thistlecrack in the Gold Cup, come on! And Ciaran?
There's a big difference here, Jack. You know what you're talking about, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I was going through the form, just looking to see what my big tip of the week is. So my tip for the week is, don't eat yellow snow. Honest to God, I was told that years ago, and it stuck with me, and it's one of those rules of life that you can take forward with you. It carries across continents. You know, it's the same as in America as it is in Ireland, you know.
Yeah. Antarctica,
especially true in Antarctica. So my tip for this week in Cheltenham is, don't eat yellow snow.
So the Star Sport double: Thistlecrack for the Gold Cup, and do not eat yellow snow at all.
Which is a lesson in life, Jack. So kind of, you know, it'll last longer. It transcends the Cheltenham Festival, which is important too. So
it certainly does. Worth remembering, folks. I hope you have that jotted down in your notepads. Now to more serious matters, and the rise of West Cork Rugby continued last weekend, with several players making big impacts in the green jersey.
Oh, it was a fantastic weekend again for West Cork Rugby. In the last couple of weeks, Jack, we've talked about the various local people who are involved with Ireland national teams, and it was fantastic to see Skibbereen's Enya Breen make her debut for the Ireland senior women's team in the Six Nations against France last Friday night. Huge moment for Enya, and fantastic to see, and she's adding again to the number of locals who are plying their trade on the international scene. So with that in mind, I spoke to Clonakilty's Laura Guest, who is the head coach of the Munster women's rugby team, to chat about Enya, her potential And as well as that, the rest of the local rugby West Cork players who are in action with Ireland in the Six Nations.
Hi now, I'm joined now by Clonakilty native Laura Guest, the head coach of the Munster women's rugby team, and also a former Ireland rugby player who has won a Grand Slam and Six Nations title with Ireland in the past. Thanks for coming on the Star Sport podcast, Laura. Let's look at Ireland ladies first. I know the 47-17 home defeat to France last weekend was disappointing, but for us here in West Cork, it was great to see India Breen from Skibbereen make her Ireland's senior debut. India's only 19, but she's a very, very special talent. And you've coached India with Munster, Laura. Can you tell us a small bit about her?
Yeah, Inya's a fantastic talent, and it's brilliant, as you say, at 19 to be making that senior debut. And I think it's important to recognise too, it's against France, who are one of the powerhouses of women's rugby. So Inya got a chance there in against a team that are, one of the best in the world. We're now semi-professional, and Inya didn't look out of place in any way. I suppose she was a little unlucky in that I would like to have seen her involved sooner in the Six Nations, but Michelle Claffey and Selena Upu have been making a good partnership there. But while Enya didn't get a crazy amount of ball in attack, I thought she acquitted herself very well in defence. And Enya is one of these talented players who looks like they're going to fumble a ball or maybe shouldn't gather a ball, and suddenly she gathers it. She's still on her feet. She's very, very strong, and she's through a gap. And I think in commentary, Fiona Coughlin put it best. Enya does all the little things correctly in terms of she does all the small details perfectly. And she certainly has a bit of X factor as well. But in her first start and in her first full 80, I think she should be proud of herself and she should be happy with herself. Hopefully we'll see more of her this weekend against Wales.
You said before that Inya's very much one for the future, but she's also one for the present. Now we can see that by the fact that she made her Ireland debut. Like, what does make her so special, Laura?
I think Enya has a bit of everything. She has great balance, superb strength. She has plenty of pace and good footwork. And more than anything else, then, which I think you need at that level, she has a brain. She has a rugby mind. She has a great understanding of the game. And I think Enya will get just better and better as time goes on. But likewise, yeah, she's certainly one for the present as well. In the Munster team this year, I think she was the standout back throughout the season, which is incredible for somebody who's in their first season at senior rugby.
Temperament-wise, like for kind of she's only 19, and to get kind of, you could say, to make her debut against like such a good French team, like she wasn't phased at all, which is a good sign of the future for her, I think. Yeah,
I think Enya is just extremely calm as a person. You never see her get rattled. Like anybody in a game, things might go a little askew at the start. You might drop a ball or you might miss a tackle. Enya rarely makes those basic errors, but even if she does, she never ever lets it get to her. I don't know how she does it, but she's extremely calm. There is a calm interior as well as exterior on Enya, and it's something that I don't think you can coach. I think it's something that's probably been there all her life, and I think she's just generally a games player. She could probably turn around to anything. I've heard of her playing plenty of football down in West Cork as well, and I would think any team would be delighted to have an Enya Breen in their team,
So if hopefully for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years we'll see a lot more of Enya, both Munster and Ireland.
Absolutely. I think one of Enya's huge strengths is she can actually play anywhere across the back line. She's played at 10 underage. She was playing at 15 at the start of the season for us. She was in the centres for us. I think Enya could actually be anywhere in the back line. I have to say I like her in midfield in that I think she's a great defender as well as a great attacker. But I think one of Enya's huge strengths is she can play anywhere. And she's a superb place kicker as well. So I think the future is 100% bright with Enya.
Oh, fantastic. That's great news. Laura, we didn't see Laura Sheehan from Ireland involved against France the last night, but she did score against Italy in the previous game. Ireland lost away in Parma that night. And she did, and Laura did score as well. And her Ireland debut against USA back in November. So she's another local West Cork woman who's making great strides on the international scene.
Yeah, I think, as I said to you the last time, Laura's just a hard worker who puts her mind to something, and she has earned every bit of where she's got to. I suppose with Ali Miller returning, I suppose it wasn't really a surprise maybe to see Laura miss out a little in the Six Nations. I would personally have liked to have seen her on the bench for all of the Six Nations ahead of Megan Williams, who I know started in the first game, and would have liked to have seen her there just last weekend stay on the bench. I thought she was very good in Italy when she came on, as you said, she got a try. Laura has superb speed, and I think she's a great finisher. But I suppose with Emer Considine and Ali Miller, there's great experience in that wing setup at the minute. And I suppose knowing Laura, I think what she'll be doing is she'll be learning from what they have, which they are two great players. She'll be learning away and keeping her head down and working way hard. And I think we will certainly see more of Laura still. Her international career might be a little on the up and down, but I think that's international rugby, unfortunately.
obviously, like we were sitting there, the result didn't go too well against France the last night, but the crowd was fantastic. Over 6,000 at the stadium up in Dublin the last night to watch the Irish women's rugby team play. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come, because it's great just to see that Irish team get that level of support, Laura.
Yeah, and I think the players fed off that support too. I think there was great intensity, especially in that first half. And I think the crowd played their part there. And as you say, it's great to see people out supporting the women's game. Superb numbers. And again, superb numbers in Independent Park the other night as well for the 20s. And it's great to see people supporting, if you like, the lower end of the international scale, only on the fact of popularity, really. I mean, you can pay a fortune to get into a senior international. You don't have to pay that much money at all, and you can get into some top quality rugby, be it in Energia Park or be it in Irish Independent Park.
How would you assess the Six Nations so far for the Irish women's team?
I think the minimum target coming into the Six Nations would have been to win the 3 away games. I think people looking in might have thought that Italy might have caught Ireland. I think Ireland were under no illusions. Italy are a very improving side, and that was always going to be a very tough battle. They simply now must regroup and beat Wales away. That is their minimum now, is that they have to get that victory in Cardiff, which isn't an easy thing either. Test rugby is very difficult at the best of times. But I think where Ireland women maybe would be disappointed a little bit with themselves at the weekend against France is some of the scores were just a little too soft. We had a pillar moved maybe twice to get 2 French tries where they had made them work for scores, and all of a sudden then they just gave them 2 soft scores. So I think Ireland's discipline is still maybe one of their Achilles heels at the minute, and I think it's been documented a bit about their maybe lacking creativity in attack. I don't know if I buy that. I think there's plenty of creative players out there. I think they're just not getting enough possession, and they need to generate quicker ruck ball.
As a coach yourself, would you start Enya Breen against Wales this weekend? The fact she made her debut, would you just put her in again straight away?
Absolutely. I would be a fan of putting Enya Breen in as often as she is fit for the next, as you said, 10 years. I think she's a superb player.
Brilliant. You mentioned the Ireland under 20s earlier. They had a fantastic win against France the last night. They won the Six Nations with 1 game to spare. Yeah. Josh Wycherley, Finine's brother, got 2 tries, man of the match. John Hoddett from Oscar, another great game. It's fantastic, isn't it? Because there wasn't a lot of talk about this under 20 Ireland team before the Six Nations. Yet here they are, 4 wins out of 4, and they're playing great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? They're playing some superb attacking rugby. I suppose maybe a little different to the senior setup. There's a bit more room and there's a bit more free-flowing attacking rugby. But the under-20s are having a superb season. I'd say going into England, a lot of people didn't give them a chance. That England side were a great side, and a lot of people just said, I presume now the 20s will play, and I hope they're kind of respectable against England. But I think people were surprised they beat England, and the 20s then just got a little bit of momentum, and it's very important in a tournament, and they blew France away. It was a very comprehensive victory, and as you said, two able West Cork men. I've been watching Finine play for quite a while now, and I have to say I'm a huge fan of Finine Wycherley. My God, is there a second Wycherley, and hopefully he'll make as much progress in the senior setup as Finine has done, because I think Finine is somebody who hopefully will play Ireland senior yet. He's a very young man and he's in a very competitive position, but I think he's a fantastic player, and my God, is Josh a fine player as well.
Isn't it fantastic? Here we are, Laura, kind of talking on a West Cork Sports podcast. We're talking about rugby players from West Cork on the international scene. Go back 5-10 years ago, it was probably unheard of, with the likes of Laura there in yet, kind of Finine Wycherley, Gavin Coombs, Liam Coombs, Darren Sweetenham, now Josh Wycherley, John Hoddett. Isn't it fantastic for rugby here in West Cork?
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and you know yourself as well, being involved in sport for so long, you need people like that to come through to give the young people in the area the chance to say, I think I should play rugby. So, sport in West Cork and rugby in West Cork is currently thriving, and it's from the likes of those players. All those players you mentioned, they're superb role models. Every one of them, not one of them have an ego, and they are all down to earth, hardworking, fantastic ambassadors. Darren Sweetenham, again, he was capped there a couple of years ago in November. He's a fine player. Every time he plays for Munster, he makes something happen. And again, that Irish setup is incredibly competitive, and yet he featured in November. So again, Darren isn't gone either, and hopefully we'll see Finine come through in the future, and likewise, hopefully Josh and John might come through. And as you rightly said as well, we've Gavin and Liam Coombs then as well, which again, fine players coming through.
Oh, fantastic. Before I let you go, Laura, I have to ask you about obviously the Ireland senior side against Wales this weekend. I suppose the odds of winning the Six Nations, a lot of results need to fall in Ireland's way. We need Scotland to do us a favour. We need to beat Wales ourselves. What's your hunch telling you about this weekend, this Saturday?
I'd like to see Ireland perform again for the intensity that they had for the first 40 last week. I think they need it for 70 or 60 or 70 at least for this week. I think they can beat Wales, yeah. I definitely think that of Ireland. They needed the performance against France. I'm not certain Scotland will be able to do us the favour, but I think Ireland themselves are only looking after number one. They're looking after let's beat Wales. I think this tournament has been a funny tournament. I would have said I didn't see a Grand Slam being won unless it was going to be Wales, and I still probably wish we weren't in Cardiff this weekend playing them. But at the same point, I think Ireland can get the better of Wales. They just need to, again, bring the intensity they brought for the first half there against France for 60 and 70 and 80 minutes. It was nice to see Conor Murray play better rugby. I'm still not convinced that Johnny Sexton is at his best, but he was better, thankfully. But again, I think Stander and O'Mahony are huge players for Ireland, and I think CJ Stander was sorely missed in the previous couple of games.
Like, there was a welcome return to form against France, because I say we're starting to get worried. Like, was it just a blip in the first couple of games, or was it something more serious? But to see them outplay the French, I know the French being the French, they're unpredictable at the best of times. But to see them play so well for that first 40 minutes, it kind of puts us more at ease now, doesn't it? Kind of coming into the World Cup later in the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ireland needed that because I think panic mode might have set in otherwise. I probably wouldn't have been overly worried about maybe a bit of a kick in the behind in the Six Nations if it means we recover and perform in the World Cup. You go back to 2007 World Cup, we looked amazing, we looked fit, we looked big and strong, and we were absolutely brutal at playing rugby. So maybe we had got ahead of ourselves even as supporters and thought, we're world beaters and we're going to win the Six Nations, we're going to win the World Cup. Maybe we got a wake-up reminder, and I don't think we'll be caught when it comes to World Cup. And I hope then we have players coming back and in form. I think Sean O'Brien coming into this tournament without much game time, very difficult for him, impossible to find form in such a competitive window as the Six Nations. But hopefully Ireland will keep building their strength and depth. Great to see Jack Carty involved and getting capped. I still think Ross Byrne is not finished yet. I think Ross Byrne has a lot to offer this Irish side. But I definitely think we'll be lucky of having this bit of a wake-up call when it comes to World Cup, I hope.
Because my final question now, I suppose, in terms of preparations for the World Cup, again, I know it's months away, but in terms of intensity, like the game we're going to get in Saturday in Cardiff, like in terms of intensity, this will be the closest that we're going to get to a World Cup knockout game, I think, so it's a huge test. Absolutely,
I agree. And again, the momentum inside in games in knockout rugby is important. I think Ireland will have to be constantly looking at trying to keep that momentum, keep the scoreboard ticking over. Doing the small things really well, winning our lineouts is the minimum we need to require. And again, the lineout was better against France. It's had its problems against Italy. It had its problems earlier in the round. People would say that when Toner's not playing, our lineout isn't as good. I think Henderson's physicality is needed. I personally would still love to see Tyke Byrne back in there. But I think, our set piece, we have to start winning those again, and we have to get that scoreboard moving and ticking over. Wales will play for 80, that's without doubt, and you're right, the closest we'll get to a knockout rugby game.
Fantastic. Laura, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully it'll be a clean sweep for all the Ireland teams this weekend, and we'll chat to you again throughout the year, okay? Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laura. That was perfect. Thank you so much. That's great.
No problem. And I'm now set up on the Skype, which is great.
They said I was the same. It was Jack here who got me to go on the Skype because I didn't even have an account. I don't use it at all. But it's fierce handy. So.
But I have to say there must be something in the water in the Wycherley's water anyway, because Fineen is some player. Never mind Josh. Josh is fantastic. But I have to say I think Fineen is the next Peter O'Mahony.
He's something else, isn't he? He's a black man. But
I've never actually met him, but I'd say I've heard that he is one of the most down-to-earth, normal, zero ego about him, and I just think that's brilliant to see. I hate to hear of the opposite, and thankfully in Munster we're surrounded by players who have no ego. It's fantastic.
Because he got a West Cork Sports Award there maybe the year before last, and he was just such a normal, genuine fella, kind of, like you said, there's no airs and graces, there's no shit about him, just a normal West Cork lad, and it's great.
Absolutely, and I think Munster really rate Fineen as well, and I really see him progressing, which is fantastic. And coming out of the 20s now, they should be looking at John Hodden, they should be looking at Josh, and I'd say they will be again. And even they've got Casey coming through, which is great. It's good for rugby, good for Munster rugby.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast, and the Clonakilty Park Hotel West Cork Rally gets underway this weekend, and for the first time ever it's going to be counted as a stage for the British Rally Championship, Kieran.
Yeah, this is huge news, Jack. Massive news for West Cork, and we're delighted to be media partners for the event. They're expecting massive crowds in Clonakilty all weekend, and apparently there hasn't been a room free in any of the hotel for the week.
And with the likes of ex-World Rally Championship driver Mick O'Hurvanen and Ireland's top rally driver Craig Breen set for action, sport fans in West Cork really are in for a treat this weekend.
Oh, 100% Jack, they really are. And I spoke to Clerk of the Course Greg McCarthy earlier on to get the inside track on what to expect this weekend. I'm joined in studio by Greg McCarthy, Clerk of the Course, for the upcoming Clonakilty Park Hotel West Cork Rally that is also a counting round of the British Rally Championship. It's the first time ever that a Motorsport Ireland sanctioned event forms part of the British Rally Championship. So Greg, how big a deal is this?
Kieran, it's a huge deal really for rallying in Ireland in general. It's a fantastic coup. I suppose the best thing of all, it's, you know, the British Championship came looking for us. They obviously came last year and had a look at the rally in general and how we run our events in Ireland, and they were obviously impressed with Clonakilty, its location, its stages, and they approached us to know would we be part of it. So we were delighted to accept it. Like
the West Cork Rally, it's going since first held in 1977. Like, that's a long history. But does this take it to the next level, Greg?
It definitely ups to the level. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago we were made a round of a new European Rally Championship, which was a new idea from the FIA, which is the governing body of the sport in the world. This, for us in Ireland, is definitely taking to another level. And to have the British front runners and the Irish front runners together, head to head, it's going to be fantastic.
Am I right in saying that this is the first time that a round of the British Rally Championship has been held in the down south in the Republic?
Absolutely, the first time in, I think it's 53-year history now the British Championship is running. It's the first time it's been south of the border.
In terms of exposure for Clonakilty and West Cork, in terms of tourism and kind of TV audience and so on, what a huge boost it's going to give everyone locally.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, I've ran the rally for the last 4 years. This is my 5th year, and you always get that feeling that Clonakilty stated as the kickstart to the tourist season. I think it's going to be a double kickstart this year. There's no bid to be got from Kinsale to Skibbereen. It's fantastic.
And that's brilliant to hear. You're Clerk of the Course. Tell us what a Clerk of the Course actually does.
Pretty much the buck stops with me for everything from the word go. I suppose initial planning for the rally for 2019 would have started maybe a week after the 2018 event. We just have to, the buck stops with me, but I need a team behind me, and we could have anywhere upwards of 400 volunteers for the weekend to make the event happen. I'm blessed with the team I have, and to be fair, they've rode with me, they've stuck with me, and they're still there again this year. Great team, and when you have a good team like that, it makes life an awful lot easier.
Talk me through the stages, Saturday and Sunday. It's running over both days. Kind of what do fans have to look forward to?
Yeah, Saturday we have 4 stages done twice. The first 2 stages would be Ring and Dunworley. Ring probably being the most famous stage in West Cork, where guys just want to come to do that stage. A fantastic stage. I've driven it myself, competed on it 2 or 3 times. Dunworley, while it's in the same area and it's on the coast on the Seven Heads, beautiful part of the world on the Wild Atlantic way there, it's a completely different stage. Those 2 are done twice in the morning. Then in the afternoon we move inland. We have a Shanaway stage, which is up north near Enniskeen. Bit more technical and tricky, not as quick as the Ring or Dunworley stages. And then Sam's Cross, which again is another famous stage in the West Cork towns, passing the monument at Fisher's, or at Sam's Cross, the pub. And then those stages again are repeated twice, and the last stage then is a 2.5 kilometre stage just on the edge of the town. Classed as a town stage, but it's a little bit of countryside, but it's as close as we can get to the town without going down the main street. Yeah.
And then the action moves on to Sunday?
Sunday is a little bit, I won't say more leisurely, but a shorter version of a day really. Sunday we have 3 stages: Clogach, Ballinascarthy and Ardfield. Of the 3 of those, I suppose Ardfield is probably the driver's favourite. But this year we've put an extra twist on it, where we've used a version we've never used before. Again, classic coastal stage, lovely flowing roads, good surface. So those stages are repeated in the afternoon again on Sunday before the finish ramp in Emmett Square.
You know better than anyone else, Greg, for fans this weekend to go out and watch the rally. Where are the best spots?
Yeah, I mean, Ring Village is always a popular spot, I suppose. We're very lucky in West Cork. You know, you go to other events, it's hard to get into places, but in West Cork there's an array of roads, so there's vantage points in every one of the stages. Sam's Cross on Saturday afternoon, a very good vantage point. Ring Village, as I said. Dunworley, there's some lovely vantage points in Dunworley. Ardfield Village again on the Sunday, and the Red Strand, Fisher's Cross. Plenty of vantage points, and the maps are well signposted and stuff, so plenty of places for the spectators to go to.
There's a fantastic lineup too this weekend. Having Miko Hervinen, 4-time runner-up in the WRC over here, like that's a huge coup as well.
Yeah, look, it's been a kind of a dream, I suppose, for the last 3 years to try and get him here. Mm-hmm. We were very close last year, and we got it over the line this year. You know, it just brings it to another level. He's looking forward to it. I've been speaking to him once or twice now in the last few weeks, and really looking forward to it. He loves his rallying, and will be delighted to come back to Ireland again.
Having someone like him involved, it just raises the profile even more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like with the British Championship coming to tarmac again for the 4th year, and to have the likes of Hervinen, you know, I suppose it'll be for next year. Where do we go from there to raise it again? And that's something we aim to do all the time, is keep upping the profile.
So for sports fans here in West Cork, the chance to see someone like him in action is one they shouldn't miss. But as well as that, a lot of good local fellas there with Daniel Cronin, there's David Guest, I think Gerard Donovan, a couple of fellas like that.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the local talent is there. I don't think Keith Cronin will be out this year, but Daniel is certainly coming on strong every event. David Guest is getting the hang of his new car. Plenty of local competition for Rico and for all the rest of them.
No, fantastic. Greg, come here, thank you so much for popping in, and best of luck this weekend. Hope it'll be an absolutely fantastic couple of days. So if there's anyone in West Cork this weekend looking for something to do, pop along to the Clonakilty Park Hotel West Cork Rally. Entertainment is guaranteed.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sports Podcast, and I have to say, before we go through our usual rigmarole here at this point of the show, after reading last week's sports section, I honestly have to say I was never so excited about a sports section as in this week's, because when I read last week's, I went into your office and I said, Kieran, great sports section this week, and you said, Jack, wait till next week. So you know, I'm on tenterhooks here.
Jack, I think the words I said to you is you haven't seen anything yet. You know, kind of constantly raising the bar,
yeah.
Like kind of, it's going to become a tagline, Jack, but this week it's a cracker jack. It's an absolute cracker jack. This week we've a 28-page sports section.
28 pages?
28 pages, yeah. There's not enough. I've been here morning, noon and night for the last week.
And they say newspapers are dead.
Yeah, sleeping over in my sleeping bag down in the office and everything, just to get this done, just for all our loyal readers out there. But it's a 28-page sports section. That includes 8 pages on the West Cork Rally. We're looking at the history of the West Cork Rally, what's coming up this weekend. So it's a must for any motorsport fan in West Cork, but any sports fan really, because it's such a big occasion this weekend in West Cork, Jack, having the West Cork Rally as a counter round of the BRC. We also have report and reaction for Sacred Heart Secondary School Clonakilty, won the All-Ireland Junior Camogie Colleges final last Saturday. Well done to them.
Congratulations.
Fantastic stuff. We have an interview with Paddy Kelly, the former Cork footballer. He shares his thoughts ahead of Cork and Donegal in the Division 2 of the National League this Saturday. Crunch game for Cork, a game they have to win in their kind of ongoing battle to avoid relegation. So that's one for all GA fans in West Cork to pick up and read. Also, we've previews. The Senior Football Championship is kicking off, or throwing in, on Monday, Jack. A couple of local teams involved. Beara are playing Shandoon and Dunmanway, which is best of luck to Beara. The Carbery Senior Footballers are in action too. They're taking on CIT in Brinny at 3 o'clock on Bank Holiday Monday, so that'll be an interesting one. Obviously, the Carbery team kind of takes in all the clubs in the Carbery division. It's a pretty big division. Carbery lost in the opening round last year against UCC. They're taking on a CIT team, which we don't know the look of the CIT team. It's with colleges. You don't know what CIT team will turn up till the day itself. So Or we know with the Carberry team that Damien Gore will be playing with CIT, and that's a loss to Carberry. He's Kilmacabee's kind of main forward. He's a real talent. He's played with the Cork seniors this year, but he goes to college in CIT and he's playing with CIT, so that's a loss to Carberry. Also another loss to Carberry is Rory Dean, the Cork senior. As far as I know, he won't be involved with Carberry next Monday, and again that's a big loss. Rory's been a fantastic player for.
He got the all-important goal the last day in the league for Cork.
Exactly, yeah, he's been a super player, but Rory's not involved with the Carberry senior footballers this year, but maybe that will change, I don't know.
Watch this space.
Carberry still have the three O'Driscoll brothers. They'll have Kevin Bryan and Cullum. They'll still have a host of players from across the division, so hopefully best of luck to them. Best of luck to Tim Buckley, their manager, and the Carberry senior footballers. So hopefully we'll have positive news on that this time next week. And we'll also, in this week's Southern Star, we've a few words of Conor Horan. He'd I don't know how you describe it. It was kind of an action-packed weekend last weekend. Conor is from Bandon. He's our Bandon boy, Republic of Ireland international, who's also a midfielder with Aston Villa. They played in their big derby against Birmingham last week. They won. Jack Grealish got the goal, but it's what happened to Jack Grealish before that, Jack, which caused all the consternation.
It was a bizarre moment. I was watching the game with a few friends, and a Sunday morning kick-off, we weren't paying a huge amount of attention. But when this happened, this became the only thing in our lives. For those who didn't see it, I think Jack Grealish, there was an Aston Villa corner possibly, and play had stopped, and Jack Grealish was walking back into position, and out of the crowd, a raving lunatic,
an idiot, as you could call him, an idiot,
of a Birmingham City fan, ran onto the field and attempted to land a right hook on Jack Grealish from behind. Jack Grealish was unsighted. Luckily, he didn't connect fully, but he did land. The fact that it's from behind, the shock level that would bring, be assaulted by someone from the crowd as a professional footballer, when you think one place you're safe is probably between the white lines, and I don't know, it was shocking to see, but seems to be happening more and more. There was an incident in a Rangers game on Friday night as well, and then
later on Sunday, the Man United Arsenal game, after Arsenal got awarded their penalty, I think a fan went on the field to confront Chris Smalling. So it seems to be happening more and more, Jack. The lucky thing for Jack Grealish is that idiot did not connect properly with that punch, because he'd have caused him serious damage.
Because he swung for the fences.
Yeah, he really
was not
did.
A little tap. He was going to knock him out.
He was. Yeah, he got hit with a 14-week jail ban earlier this week, which is, it's good to see that they hit him hard. Whether it's enough to kind of deter like-minded idiots over the next couple of weeks and months, because the worst thing, if this becomes a trend, kind of, if you fools running from the ground, from the terraces or the stand, I don't care if you're full of drink or not, it's just a ridiculous thing to do. It really is, Jack.
And of course, for anyone out there who thinks people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and that we're actually criticising football fans in the UK, we're not, because this type of thing does happen on occasion in the GAA, be it in club games or, if you remember back to Leinster final of, I can't remember the year, 2011 was it, Loud?
Yeah, a good few years ago now,
The referee was accosted by a number of outraged Loud supporters after the game. And there was the Kerry game down in Limerick, Kerry against Mayo, a couple of years ago, when a Mayo fan, who in turn got some kind of a deal with Supermax to promote a burger out of it.
Every cloud and all that.
Every cloud, but that's how we've reacted in Ireland. It's kind of with an old chuckle and a laugh and a hash, or he was only having the crack. But some guy is not only going to be having the crack and could actually injure a player. And I don't know, what can you do? You can't go back to the old dark days of the 80s with 20 high foot fences, because that only ends in tragedy as well.
I know you can't go there. Like you're just hoping now that the prison sentence that this Birmingham City fan, and I use that word fan very loosely, that he got, that'll serve as some deterrent to others, whoever, if it crosses their mind for one fleeting moment. Because what might happen, because if you punish that fan's team, if Birmingham were punished with maybe a points deduction, or the stadium was closed for one game, maybe that would serve as more of a deterrent. Because what you don't want is these idiot hero fans. Let's say Man City, Liverpool going for the league, Jack. And if some Liverpool fan pretends to be a Man City fan, goes to a game and runs onto the field and accosts some other opposing player, next thing City are deducted points, kind of.
I did see someone make reference to that during the week, though, and I'm sure you're aware of independent journalist Miguel Delaney, who on Twitter, he noted when someone suggested that this is a possible thing that could happen, that it would not take a massive amount of an investigation to figure out that this person may not have actually been a Man City fan. So say, for example, I'm a Liverpool sympathiser, have been most of my life, and so if I was to run onto the field and pretend to be a Man City fan in order to get points deducted from them, they could just go onto my Twitter feed and see that for the last 8 or 9 years I've been tweeting incessantly about Liverpool and about why they haven't won the league in my lifetime.
That's an affliction you just can't cure, is
no,
it?
That is true.
And I'm sorry to say that wait for the first Liverpool title in 28, 29 years will go on. So.
More than likely.
Anyway, all I have left to say now is, again, thank you so much for joining us again this week. We'll be back next week at the same time, so be sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Android, Spotify, YouTube and Stitcher, or anywhere else where you listen to the show. And don't forget too that if you want to email us any questions, feel free to email your questions to sport@southernstar.ie. So till next week, we'll talk to you then.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.